Aloha, everyone. Welcome to Java. Thank you for joining. This is Wednesday, and it is for the first day of November 2023. Of course, we're expecting quite a bit in the market, but I've also got a couple of other things that I would like to put past you toward the end if you would stay for that. I think you might be interested. So, starting with the MMRI is our major favored risk indicator above 325. So, getting back deeper into that extreme risk territory, we are right before the Federal Reserve meeting today. So, we've got the two main elements, of course, the dollar relative strength and the 10-year yield. So, these are both high, and the 10-year is approaching again, trying to get towards that 5% that the market hates every time it does. Stocks sell off, the markets sell off. And you see this reflected. The futures are not looking so good, even though stocks currently are in the green and looking for probably a positive open, at least for the morning. We've got the volatility index is down. Gold is down, which is fear trade back below 2000, although I think it will recover, and oil is down at the moment. So our general sentiment is that it's nervous, slightly negative. We are going to see it become volatile at 2:30 when Jerome Powell takes the stage, and then it should revert kind of back into its trend until we get more jobs numbers on Friday. This morning prior to market open, we are going to be watching Treasury sales announcement from Janet Yellen about the amounts and what type, the term, basically 2-year, 5-year, 10-year sales on these treasuries will have an effect. So for our calendar, we're getting some employment, PMI, and job openings. We've got manufacturing and construction spending. And then at 2 o'clock, we get the Fed's decision, but we won't know until 2:30 when Fed Chair Powell takes the stage. So that's what we're looking at. So for the banks, we've got the U.S. Treasury cuts. So they're going to be borrowing less than they had expected, but still more than they ever have before. So this is another instance of the psychological, how they're saying it. So even though they're breaking records, never borrowed this much before, but it's less than they expected to, and that's what they're putting out in the news. So we do have bond markets in distress, and bond markets are starting to tell the story. They are behind all of this volatility. The bond market is much larger than the stock market, in case you don't know. And so that's going to be the harbinger of basically when these bad things hit. So this is the truth. Fed must push the economy into a recession or inflation will not get back to 2%. I don't think it's even getting back to 3%, but they'll still try to basically crush the economy, which means to crush the consumer that cannot spend anymore. The way they do that is by taking their jobs. From the jobs, they want corporations to close. So we heard from WeWork. WeWork is going to file bankruptcy. When they do, they will be firing everybody that works for them. That lack of job will mean that all of those people will not be able to spend, which is kind of their goal. Work out these zombie corporations and get people to stop spending. So we did get one surprise one, is Michelin. They chose to close one of their major factories. And this is, basically in the Rust Belt. And this is going to cut over 1,000 jobs there. So they actually did manufacture. They were doing well, but the interesting part is that they cited a lack of demand and shifting market. And they make auto tires. So basically lower demand. Nobody's spending. So we've got a couple of stories here about the yen, Japanese yen. So have a lot of traders, the yen gained strength because they were doing yield curve control and decided to kind of control their rising yields. So this basically gave the yen temporary strength and they are betting against it. So they think they're going to step back out, start doing QE, and that yen will drop. So we've also got Argentina. The reason I've got this in here is because they have dwindling reserves. They didn't have a lot of cash behind them. So they just made their $2.6 billion payment to the IMF. without many reserves. How did they do this? Well, interestingly and coincidentally enough, they did just make deals with the United States on reserves and oil in the background. So basically, they're being backstopped now by the US. So for oil and energy, we've got the cost of critical energy fuel spiking. No surprise, but this is in regards to uranium. So since oil has all of these political issues and now with the war, trying to turn to uranium and the price is spiking. So just interesting there. We've also got Russia. They're talking about increasing their oil exports. The reason, so this is going to cause a supply glut, bring the price down for a bit. But in the long term, I believe it's going to rise and continue from there. When it does, that will also push inflation to rise as well. So the reason they're increasing now is because they are expecting their refineries to be down for a couple of months. So basically pushing everything out now because they're not going to be producing very much at all for the next couple of months after that, and it will be during winter. So I think there's other plans back there. Another story, we've got Russia to ban the internal use of cryptocurrencies. There's an agenda here. So they've banned the use of cryptocurrencies, but only for people. They're encouraging for businesses. And the reason they're doing this is because they're basically setting up the structure for the e-ruble. So they will be trading through the state and through businesses, direct e-ruble, e-yuan. And then once it's refined, they may allow the people to trade in this. And I think this is something similar that will happen in the Western world. So refining it first, allowing businesses, allowing the elites to trade first, and then it will become available for the people. So on the war front that everyone's been getting bombarded with, I simply want to bring up a couple of things. The first is that Yemen has confirmed that they are joining into this conflict and that they are on the side of the Palestinians. Well, they've already started bombing and having other issues. So a couple of other points of interest. China has long not been favored with Israel, but now they took them off the map. So you still see the map in Baidu and a couple of other Chinese applications, but they have removed the name Israel. All of the towns and borders still there, but making a large statement there. We've also got this one. I don't know if you saw this, but Switzerland is now mailing their citizens to 5 million residents iodine tablets. So these are in case of a nuclear issue, nuclear disaster, with the instructions to take at the request of authorities. So they've mailed out these tablets. They used to be COVID tests, now it's iodine tablets. So they are in expectation of something. So with that, I did a little search on our own search engine and look at the numbers bought in the past month for just these three results. 7,000 here, 6,000 here, and 2,000 here. It's totally abnormal. These are not your normal supplements. These are simply to flood your thyroid to block the intake of any nuclear material that would set there because it's concentration point. But it's not necessarily your normal health supplement, if you will. Okay, I've got a couple of lava updates I wanted to bring up. The first is the Pentagon awarding a $1.3 billion contract to Northrop Grumman. So if you're not familiar with Northrop Grumman, they generally make war machines, whether it's fighter pilots, engines, and basically equipment. So they're a war ticker. And now they've got a contract for 100 satellites. So earlier they had given contracts to basically Elon Musk for Starlink. But these now are to build communications satellites, which will be separate, therefore military purpose. And they will also be, don't kid yourself, surveillance, not just of the quote unquote enemy, but also of citizens. So leave what you think about that in the comments. Interested to know. So we've got the FDA must decide whether CRISPR's gene editing promise is worth the risk. So CRISPR is the company that has basically torn apart the human genetic code, and They are basically in the gene editing industry. And so we've got them talking about targeting sickle cell anemia, and a couple of other human health issues. However, they've been studying this for the past couple of decades, and we're getting into territory that I think is terribly dangerous, and they're still playing with it. So, genetically modifying humans. And if you have not seen this movie, it's called Gattaca. Strongly urge you to. It's a great movie if you have an evening, but it's not sci-fi anymore. I left the link here. I'll leave the link below, but this is to see the trailer in YouTube if you would like. I think it's something interesting. Leave your comments for me, if you will. And if you haven't liked yet, please like this video. I would appreciate that. And with that, I wish you a green trading day, just wonderful day in general. And until I see you again, my friends, stay free.